Hi there, this is Ashley. I'm so glad you're tuning in today because we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important. Now, when we think of climate change, we often picture melting glaciers or wildfires. But there's another side of the story, one that involves real people, communities, and cultures that are deeply connected to the land. And those are our indigenous brothers and sisters. Indigenous peoples only make up 5% of the global population, but they protect over 80% of the world's biodiversity. But here's the painful truth. They're also among the most vulnerable to climate impacts. So, let's break down the major threats they face. First, we have erosions of natural resource-based livelihood. Indigenous peoples rely heavily on land and natural resources for survival, through farming, fishing, and handicraft. But climate change, deforestation, and exclusion from decision-making are destroying their way of life. When the land suffers, their identity suffers too. Second is residents in geographical areas exposed to climate change. Most indigenous peoples live in forests, islands, and coastal areas. When the rains don't come, crop fails. When the seas rise, their homes disappear. Their ecosystem-based livelihood and cultures are being erased by forces beyond their control. The third threat is migration and forced displacement. Because of the rising sea levels, natural disaster, and resource loss, many indigenous communities are forced to leave their ancestral homes. But immigration brings new struggles. They often end up in cities doing low-pay jobs, insecure jobs like domestic work or street vending, without proper benefits or protection. Now, let's talk about gender inequality. Indigenous women and girls are doubly burdened, expected to earn money and take care of their families. They face discrimination inside and outside of their communities. And after being displaced, many are exposed to violence, exploitation, and jobs with no protection. And the fifth threat is the lack of recognition, rights, and inclusion in policies. In many countries, indigenous rights like land ownerships, access to justice, and participation in decision-making are ignored or poorly implemented. Their voices are missing, even when the international law says that they should be heard. And lastly, we have the increased poverty and inequality. Climate change makes the poor poorer, and the indigenous people are often the poorest of the poor. The rising food prices, loss of jobs, and unsafe conditions. These worsen poverty and widen the gap between the indigenous and the non-indigenous population. In fact, while poverty may decreasing in many countries, indigenous poverty is getting worse. And in conclusion, indigenous people are protectors of nature, yet they suffer the most from the climate crisis. And those are the threats of the climate change and the indigenous people. You can check out my concept map for the further details and information. Goodbye and thank you. Bye.